Okay, here's my dice tower that I made, and well, it works. Although, wait a minute, that ain't right. Okay, I have a few weird things in my dice bag. So anyway, I mean nothing wrong with this, to be honest. It's solid. It works. It's a good fixture here. But that's kind of the problem, is that it's solid. It's a fixture. It's big. It's heavy. It's bulky. It doesn't break down. Um, Basically, what I'm looking for is something a little bit more. What's the word? Elegant. I think I would be looking for a little more portable, a little more breakdownable. So I decided, you know what? Let's go ahead and come up with 2.0, version 2.0. And this is not going to be so much version 2.0 as it is version 3.0. We're going to skip right over 2.0. But I was looking on YouTube and getting some ideas from some other folks who make some dice towers. So here's what we got. And I drew up a plan, and this is a smaller tower that I'm looking at, and it's got some different baffles on the inside and some other stuff going on. But let's show you what I got here. I cut a piece of plywood out just to get an idea of how big this is going to be compared to the other one, and we're looking at only about 6.5 inches tall right here. So it's going to be smaller. It's going to be lighter. I'm going to be using 3/8 inch wood, although I'll explain what's going on with this piece of plywood here in a moment. And going to be a smaller tray. And it's actually going to be able to. Actually going to be able to break it down, because what I've decided to do is take some other ideas. I'm going to use some magnets to make this to the point where I can actually take it apart and carry it in the rolling tray. So with that, this is what the inside is going to look like. And again, it's only going to be 3 by 6.5 by 3/8 inch thick. And then the inside baffles are going to kind of look like that. And those dots that you see, where I'm going to put in some rare earth magnets. And those rare earth magnets are going to hold the tower together when it's in use, but allow it to come apart when the game session's over. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this template out. I'm actually going to tape it to the plywood, and I'm going to use the plywood as a template for drilling the holes for putting the magnets in. So anyway, more details that are going to come up later, and I'll give you a little bit more info on that. So talk to you in a bit. Bye. Okay, back for part 2. Now, if you remember, I had cut out this this piece of plywood to use as a, basically a template. But I'm using it as a template for more than just one thing. What I've done was I've gotten some 3/8 inch thick walnut, pretty nice stuff, and I've cut a piece out for my dice, for the actual rolling tray. And you can see it's a little bit larger all the way around than the plywood is. And what I did was I cut this out to 1/8 of an inch wider and longer than the plywood. And there's going to be a reason for that, and I'll show you here. Show you a little later. But for now, what I've got here is this, along with these, which are going to be the sides. Now the question is, how high do you need to make these sides? Well, I'm going to tell you that right now. Did a little, rough calculations, and there we go. And basically, we're looking at, when this thing breaks down, we're looking at 4 thicknesses, but we have a 5th thickness for the actual plywood, for the actual base. So with that, we want these to be 1 7/8 inches high. I've actually cut them off just a hair shorter than that. I think 1/16 of an inch shorter than that. But that's what it's going to look like. So the next step is to glue this up. And as soon as I've done that, I'm going to slap some clamps on there. I'll let it sit and do its thing. And then I will be back and show you the next step. So talk to you later. Bye. Okay, just a quick update. Obviously, the glue is set up. I didn't really do much prep work on this, except for sanding lightly the insides here, inside of all 3 pieces with some 220 grit sandpaper. But now I'm ready to go to the next step. So I will talk about that after I give you a couple of tips. First off, if you're using glue on a surface that you're not sure you actually want to get glue on, put down either some parchment paper or some wax paper, and whatever you're actually gluing up will not stick to the paper, but it will also protect the surface. So that's first tip. Second tip is if you are working with a wood, and especially if it's a nut wood or a fruit wood, and somebody in the household is allergic to that particular nut or fruit, please do be careful with the sanding and the sawing dust, because that can trigger allergies a lot worse than the nut itself can, because you can actually inhale the dust. So anyway, that's it, and I will talk to you later. Bye. Okay, here's the next stage, and let me show you where things are at. I've got all the internal pieces cut out here, and that's according to the template that I made under here. And again, I'll give you another close-up of the template later on. Anyway, there's what's going on there. And then I've got the actual rollout tray ready to go. Now, one detail I want to show you about the rollout tray is this. And this is the this is the front end of it, and you may be wondering why I have it notched out like that. Well, the reason for that is that these pieces, when they break down, are actually going to sit in the rollout tray, just like that. And then, if you notice, the height of the rollout tray is just enough to keep these pieces, if I can make it work right, from actually just sliding out. And then these two extra pieces on the top here, they're actually going to hold the sides. Now, you may be wondering, why is that one loose? Well, I'll come back and I'll show you that in the next video, and also show you the next step of construction detail. But anyway, at this point, what I've done is everything is glued up and it's sanded down to 150. And I do need to do some hand sanding on this just to clean up, or some 220, and then some hand sanding on it to clean up. One of the things I'm going to do is make sure I break all these corners with some 220 grit sandpaper just to take the sharp edge off. I mean, you can see, if it'll focus, there we go. You can see just how sharp those edges are. I mean, they're not going to cut you or anything, but it makes it a little more refined if those edges are knocked off. Another thing I'm going to do is on these miter cuts here, I'm going to sand around. Basically, I'm just going to take the sandpaper and just loop it around the point on that, just to take that point off. It'll make the piece a lot more durable, and it'll give it a nice rounded look. And again, right here as well, just take the sharp edge off. Don't need to do a lot of sanding to do that. So anyway, that's where I stand. And once it's done, or all that's done, I'm going to go back and do again the next step. I'll show you that, and then put some oil on it as well. So let me talk about this construction technique here. There's a couple ways you can do it. If it'll focus here. Yeah, there we go. You can certainly cut this area out with the dado blade. You could certainly cut it out with a scroll saw or a band saw, or hand cut using coping saw. What I did was I actually, again, back out. What I did was I actually cut this section of it, then cut these two little pieces to height, or just over height, because I could sand them down, and then cut the width on my saw, and you can see the joint has almost disappeared, and by the time I finished oiling and everything, it should be completely disappeared. So anyway, oh, one last thing before I actually assembled the box, I hand sanded at 220 all the inside pieces. So I am going to have to go back and do a little bit more sanding, obviously, but overall I think it's looking pretty good. So anyway, that's where we stand, and I'll show you the next step when it's done. So talk to you later. Bye. Okay, here we go. Next step. This is the plan that I made, and you can see that I cut it out, and I've actually taped it onto a piece of 1/4-inch thick plywood. I'm using the plywood to make a template or a jig or something like that, so I know where to put the holes in my actual work pieces. Now, I went ahead and took a 1/8 inch drill bit because to make these holes, because I bought some super magnets like that. And here's the brand right there, Magcraft. They're 1/8 inch by 1/16 of an inch thick, and they're actually very, very strong. And you can see it's lifting that whole thing up. Well, oops. Okay, no problem there. So anyway, the template here, like I said, 1/8 inch drill bit to actually drill the holes. And then I used the holes that are in here to transfer them directly onto my my work pieces, just like this. So let me turn that around. There we go. So anyway, took those outside, clamped them together, drilled the holes, got that. Now, when you do one side, you've got to make sure, you got to remember that, you know, as you're when these actually get together, they're gonna be you know, mated like that. So if you do one side with the paper template up, you have to do the other side with the paper template down, because you want these two pieces to actually be matching and mated like that. So that's what we're going to get at the end of it all. So anyway, like I said, I got some epoxy, and the idea is to put just a little tiny dab of epoxy into each one of these holes, and then put one of the little rare earth magnets into each of the holes. Now, one thing you do have to remember to do is make sure you've got the positive and the negative sorted out. You might want to take a Sharpie or something and just stick a you know, put a little tiny tick mark on top of it or something like that, because there's no other way to tell them apart unless you actually let them stick to each other. So make sure, you know, if positive is up here, positive is down here. In other words, you've got positive facing to the left in all situations. So anyway, going back, so these are, like I said, these are the side pieces. I still need to go out and do the internal baffles on here, but that's going to be fairly easy as well. And again, I'm just going to hold things in place and transfer the marks and drill through, and we should be good to go. Should be. All right, I guess that's it. So I will talk to you later and let you know how things worked out. Bye. Okay, here it is with the magnets in. And let me get a good close-up of it here. Come on, focus. Okay, there we go. All right, basically, again, what I did was I drilled 1/8 inch hole, and then put a little tiny blob of just some 5-minute epoxy in there. Not very much, just use the tip of the skewer here. Oh, there it is. Tip of the skewer. Just got a little bit on there. Well, it's hardened up, but yeah, just a little, like I said, just a small drop. Use the tip of the skewer to work it into the hole. Then what I did was I actually took the magnets, pushed them like this, left them in the stack, pushed them down the hole, and then just slid the rest of the stack off. Now, after I did the very first set of magnets, what you do is you take the magnets and you just do that. Leave them in the stack that way you're sure of their polarity, and then you can break a few off the top. But then what you do is you pull them off. It's hard to do one-handed, and then you flip them over. So when they're on the other side, the attracting surfaces will actually. Well, let me do that again. So like this. On here, you flip it 180 going back over here. That way the attracting surfaces are lined up properly. And I did line it up properly all the way through. So here we go. Last piece to test, and there it is. And that's holding on. That's holding together pretty well. Hey, look at that. Magnets. How do they fucking work, man? Oh, sorry. So anyway, yeah, so, well, anyway, like I said, I want to keep the epoxy finish setting up, but the next thing to do is, of course, put some oil on here. So, with that, I will talk to you later. Bye. Damn it, I couldn't wait out Cambot. Okay, yeah, I got Cambot behind the camera, so say hi, Cambot.
Hi.
You didn't do it.
Nope.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, here it is, final of the dice tower, and let's go ahead and get a close up. And you can see I've got an oil finish on here, rubbed in one coat. That's all I did for now. I could certainly go back and put in more coats if I wanted to, but here's how it looks. And as far as you know, rolling capacity, I have a full set of dice here, and let's not too bad. It could have been better. So anyway, certainly works very well. So let's show you a little bit of detail about the dice tower itself. And I got a little piece of walnut, and that's the the original color. You can see how the oil finish just darkened that up, made it look a lot richer. I use Danish oil on here. You could certainly go with a mineral oil if you wanted to. Mineral oil is actually food safe, and it's a lot easier to work with, and it's a lot cheaper than Danish oil. Although with mineral oil, you would have to go back every so often and maybe reapply a little bit. But that's the nice thing about an oil finish, is if you happen to scratch this up, or put dings or something on it, you can just go back and you can just put more right over the top. You don't have to worry about stripping it and sanding it or anything like that. You can just add more as necessary. Let me show you the little front here, and you can see these little tabs right here I had added after the fact, so you can see how the seams just literally disappeared. So good joinery work there. The edges, I've got some ingrain showing, and that's what came out a little bit darker than everything else, but I think that's okay. And overall, the box looks pretty good. Now, as far as storing this, it comes apart very, very easily. One piece, 2, 3, 4 pieces, and then it just kind of breaks down on its own. So what we do is we take these pieces, and we're going to go ahead and put them in the rollout tray. And then the nice thing about the rollout tray, a little bonus feature, is it's actually got room for a set of dice. So with that, well, maybe not quite, but let's see what happens. So we put that in there and holding in place, and then these 2 pieces magnet it together, and there you go. So just like that, holds in place very nicely, looks good, carries easy. You could certainly get a little leather strap or a tie or something like that, but as it is, just pick it up. So take
bungee cord.
Yeah, bungee cord works nice. But anyway, to put it back together only takes a moment. These are actually held pretty tight because, again, it does have magnets in each one of them. So like that. Then you just make sure your magnets are lined up. Make sure you're actually got the attracting sides going together like that. So just like that. And then let's see if I remember correctly, because this will be embarrassing if I can't put it together on camera. And then let's see, this piece goes in the top, angle first, just drops in. Next piece goes in the bottom down here. And then this long piece goes in just like that. And again, there you go. So that's it. That's the dice tower, Mark III. Like I said, I skipped over Mark II. And if you got any questions, comments, advice, or even suggestions for my next project, let me know. I'll be more than glad to do it for you. So again, another action shot here. And, much better roll this time. So anyway, I guess that's it. So thanks for watching. I hope this was a helpful little project for you. And I guess that's it. So
I have to complain about the outgassing.
Yeah, well, yeah, but that's why that's another reason to work with mineral oil over Danish oil. Mineral oil does not outgas. Danish oil will give you a much more durable finish, but
it stinks.
It does stink, and you do need to let it outgas. So I guess that's it. So I will talk to you all later. So bye.